How much do supply teachers get paid in the UK? I wish there was a simple answer to this question, but a lot of it depends on how much you have taught, where you are in the country, and a range of different things. So covered up over here is my pay, what I've been paid as an M6 teacher. So that means that I've taught for 6 years. I've actually taught for more, however, I am an M6 teacher. Day rates, travel planning, there's all sorts of different factors to consider. And there's also one more that I've realised that I've missed out too. And yeah, we're going to delve into it and talk about what those sort of things look like. What's hard is that you get paid differently depending on where you are and the amount that you've taught. So the closer you are to London, the higher you get paid, because obviously London is more expensive. You've got outer London and you've got rest of UK, which is it's often called. So all those different rates are slightly different. In addition to that, the rate that the agency charges the school is also different to what you receive. So obviously they take their cut and then you as a teacher get paid X amount. So for me to give a baseline and to talk about that before then sharing these different rates, I thought I'd start with a good old ChatGPT. So here is ChatGPT's quick summary of what you get paid as an M6 teacher. So directly employed by the school is 45,000 per year, and then that's broken up. Now, it's important to note that if you're an agency worker and you've worked 12 weeks, then you default get paid, put onto that payment system. So that's slightly higher than last year where it was 225. Obviously the pay rates have gone up, and as a result of that, the day rate for M6 teachers has also gone up in line with the teacher pay for the rest of England. Rest of England is what it's called, not rest of UK. From there, you've got long-term supply. Now, this is slightly different to the 12-week rule, or if you're directly employed by a school. Me being directly employed by a school is ideally what I would like long-term eventually. One day I will be in a school and I'm hoping that I'll find a school that I really like and they really like me. It's like, oh, that's nice. And in an ideal world, they'll say, right, we want you on for 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And that's a brilliant way to start with part-time. And then that, as you can see, is the rate that I will receive. So long-term supply is then £172 per day. And that is, for example, if sometimes I get a phone call, or my wife, when she was doing supply, would get a phone call saying, we want you to teach in this school for 2 weeks. Are you okay with that? They always ask, my agency anyway, always asks, are you okay with that? They've been really good, to be fair. And I'll turn around and say, like, yeah, I can do that, or no, I'm not, unfortunately not able to do that. But because you're long-term play, there are also planning elements to take into consideration. And the rough estimate that ChatGPT is given here is £172 per day. The real take-home is slightly different, and then the agency supply is different again. So there's all sorts of different things to consider here. Take-home versus cost to school is certainly one of them. So apparently the rough general estimate for primary schools, as they charge, is 218 versus what primary school on average will receive, and that's £136 per day. I find it interesting that secondary schools get paid, secondary school staff get paid a little bit more, and then special school staff will also get paid a little bit more as well. There are also additional things to consider, such as umbrella fees. And one thing I've been advised personally, your circumstances might be different, is to avoid umbrella schemes, because you then have to pay employee and employer national insurance, because you're in charge of that yourself, and then it ends up your take home is less. So it's just something to be aware of. There are lots of other things to consider, because you've also got different types of schools. So private schools is a really interesting one, and I'm going to put that down there before I forget it, is that private, and I'll leave that as a bit of a blank for me to discuss as well. So what does my pay look like? My pay, to be completely transparent, here we go, I hope it's not been rubbed off, is £150 per day as an M6 primary school teacher per day. When I go in, that's how much I will be paid. Now that is before tax, so obviously after tax rate will be slightly different. I personally know that there are other M6 teachers in my area who are on £160 per day. So that is up to me as an individual to negotiate that and to discuss that with the schools, with the agency, because I know that they'll be charging X. I'd like to get the same as what other people in my area are receiving as M6 teachers. So that's that rate. Now, one thing my agency have been good for is a travel rate. And what that means is if I'm going further than, let's say, 15, 20 minutes, there's a petrol fee, there's time fee. So they say, you know, if you're able to get to there, we'll pay you X amount more. And that X amount, generally speaking, is about £10. They will pay me £10 more to go to certain schools. Now, I personally have a boundary of about half an hour. I don't want to spend too long in the car because you're only at school from 9 o'clock, well, a bit earlier, obviously, 8:30 until 3:30. So then spending an additional amount of time in the car, you know, sometimes I've been asked to go 45, an hour away. That's not suitable for me because I'm running a business and doing other bits and pieces as well. I have accepted certain things where they're a little bit further away and I'll get that additional amount. So 150, I think that other people in my area have received 160. Terrible. The travel rate is there, and planning rate. Planning rate is an interesting one. So, like I mentioned before, with schools that you're at long term, you will be covering them and then you'll be planning. That will be part of it because obviously the teacher's not going to be submitting plans if you're there long term. It's expected that me as a supply teacher will then do those plans, and it's an important thing to consider. So I've had things in the past where might be certain emergencies and they've said, look Thomas, your day rate's this, we want you to go and teach at this school, but there's no planning. As a result, we're going to pay you 175, so plus £25 for that planning. Now, personally, I've not been in a circumstance yet where I've done that because of time. Sometimes I'll hear quite later on and I don't really know where the teachers are at. There's a little bit of an anxiety on my level for that, and I'm not. Some teachers will be much better at that. I think I overthink things, certainly when it comes to the planning element. I'm sure that other teachers will just go on to resource sites and go, right, this. But I'm like, where are they up to with the curriculum? What level are they at in terms of this? What sort of differentiation do I need to... Definitely overthink things, and that's why that amount to me, I know I overthink things, but as a day rate, that is brilliant, and for me to be in education is fantastic. So then the final one that I wanted to talk about is a private rate. Now, a private rate is set slightly differently because the hours are longer. The school that I've been to, which is private, the hours were slightly longer, and yeah, I was teaching all over. So I was teaching in secondary, did a little bit of primary, I think it was just year 7 actually. I think it was mainly secondary, so that's perhaps why that rate was slightly higher. But as well as that, the hours were slightly longer as well. So this one helps if you do the numbers. It was £190. So again, as an ad hoc day rate, that's quite strong for that additional hour. However, that is nowhere near the £225, well, £230 that you should be getting paid as that standard rate, which would be set by what teachers get paid as M6 regardless. So the overall aim, obviously, is to eventually become a part-time teacher, and yeah, see how I get on with that because the additional rate would be there. However, if I was then 1 day a week at a school, that would be a commitment. So I can't then ad hoc change my days and stuff like that, which is nice at the moment as an ad hoc supply teacher. But that means that they've got no commitment to me and vice versa. So there are lots of pros and cons of being a supply teacher, and maybe that's a different video that I'll create in another day. If you wanted to talk about my first impressions of being a supply teacher and some of the different things that I needed to do to get started with it, I'll put a little link up there where you can get started with things and talk about things. If you've got any questions, feel free to let me know if you want to know anything about being a supply teacher, pay, additional things like this. This is for the 25 to 26 academic year. It'd be interesting to see perhaps how that changes throughout the year and in future years, full stop. But yeah, feel free to subscribe and follow me along for more discussions about what it's like being a supply teacher, and hopefully you find this video useful. If you have, make sure you go and check out lots of other ones, and also check out my resources available on my website, teachleveltriumph.com, to support you with becoming a flexible teacher, but also edtech and AI tools that you can use to be more innovative in the classroom. That's my other thing. See you in the next one. Until then, I'm out.